There is a secret trick in iRacing that you need to use that a lot of pro sim racers use and that your competitors probably don't know the first thing about. Now, I am not taking the piss when I say that these tricks can literally gain you seconds of time whenever you do a race. Firstly, we gotta make sure we optimize the pit entry before I show you the secret trick. So, I gotta use all the track here. I will get an off track. We can see I can use this much track, carry so much more speed, and brake as late as possible into the pits, right? That's very important that I brake as late as possible, and you can even overspeed it a little bit on the pit entry. Now, of course, you are playing a little bit with fire here, but you can actually overspeed the pit entry limit by about 20 kilometers an hour. Let me see if I can push it a little bit here, right? You can see that I'm way too quickly into it, and that might just be on the limit of a penalty, but I didn't get one. I was literally going into the pits with like, I think over 100 kilometers an hour, and the speed limit is 60. But because I managed to slow it down quickly enough afterwards, I didn't get a penalty. Now, you need to be a bit careful with this because that was like just on the limit. But you can overspeed it consistently with like 20 kilometers an hour without any issues. This is your own responsibility though, right? Be careful, because you can get a speeding penalty quite easily if you try this. Now, if you look at the very top of my dashboard just above the gears, you can see my speed. And you can see here I'm 130, 120, and as I cross over the white line where it says 60, I'm literally going 100 kilometers an hour without getting a penalty because I managed to slow the car down within, I think it's about 3 seconds the limit is that you can be over the speed limit. Right, so this is sketchy. Let me show you the other secret that's more consistent once you learn it, and that will actually gain you seconds of time down the pit lane, especially if it's a long one. Now, this is a secret that has been used for multiple years, but not that many casual drivers actually know about. So basically what we're gonna do when we get into the pits now is we're gonna go over the speed limit. So watch me here, brake into here. I first go down to the 60 Ks, and then watch the speed limit, your speed, watch it go up above. Watch it go to 61 here, and me still not getting a penalty. I'm literally going 1.4 kilometers an hour quicker than the actual speed limit right now, and I'm not getting a penalty for it. Now, there are some cheats to how you should do this properly, because this will actually gain you time throughout the pits. You can actually see you catching people in the pit lane. One of my favorite assist tools for this is with the Caps overlay app, which you can get by just searching up Caps K-A-P-P-S. And if you look over my relative now, I have an exact speed that I can see that I'm going with this helper. So I can actually see here, I go up to third gear to make it easier to control the throttle. And you can actually see my exact speed over on the red numbers. You can see I can push it all the way to 61.4, 61.5, and I'll get the slowdown. On some tracks it's a little bit more, sometimes it's 1.8. But typically I aim to go 61.4 kilometers an hour. This can get you a second alone, by the way, just going down the pit lane with 1.4 kilometers an hour more than anyone else who's on the pit limiter. Now, there's also another version of this trick where you're just on the pit limit. I have the pit limit on, and I switch gears. You can see my speed increase as well if I just spam the gear switch. However, this is more inconsistent and like 10 times more tedious. And also, you don't push it as much as possible. You can see my gear's like my speed is like 60 and a half. It's constantly flickering up and down. This is the more inefficient way, but if you don't want to learn the other one, this is also very useful. Next up, you of course want to optimize your release out of the pit box. Now, if I'm parked right here at the front of the pit lane, I don't need to do the pit limiter trick afterwards because it's like that short. I just need to make sure that I have the right amount of throttle, which you can test in practice sessions. Now, I'm in a GTP, so we have like an electric start right out of the pits. Look, this really is very exciting. It's just, you know, you just press the throttle and go really. But if you're in other cars like Porsche Cups or something that need to have a release, you know, having a dual clutch on your wheel or just a manual clutch and really practicing that is also something that will gain you time in the pit stops. And if you're doing an endurance race, over a race, it'll gain you a momentous amount of time if you know how to do a release, because if you lose half a second every single stop, and there's, let's say, 30 stops throughout a race, that's 15 seconds lost on something as simple as just practicing your release. Now, let me show you the whole pit sequence as a whole. So first of all, we optimize the pit entry. We use as much track as possible, cut here, carry as much speed, and then I make sure to brake down to the 60 kph, carrying a little bit more speed. And then after I turn on the pit limiter, I go up to third gear, and then I turn off the pit limiter and go my 61.4 kilometers an hour. My throttle's doing a little bit of flickering, so I'm not that precise right now, which is actually not nice, because normally I can just sit and chill at 61.4. If you want less sensitivity in the throttle, if you just go to high gears, you'll have more consistent speeds. it'll be a bit easier to control. For me, the good balance was third gear. We roll into the box like nothing's ever happened. And then, of course, we sit and wait for our stop to get all done and finished. And you can see for the GTP, I'm about 75% throttle. And that's sort of how I avoid doing a little bit of wheel spin. That was a little bit too much throttle. Actually, it was good job, Marcus. And then we go out and do a pit stop that can essentially gain time, even though your stop time, like your time stopped in the box, might have been shorter or the same time as other people. Just by optimizing the pit entry, going that 1.4 kilometers an hour quicker in the pits, we've actually gained a second, maybe 2 seconds, depends on how long the pit lane is, on like absolutely free time. All right. Now, while all this is literally free time on your competitors, I would highly advise you to practice this plenty of times before you try doing in a race, because let's say that I do go a bit too fast. If you look at the top of my screen under my mirror and I go a bit too fast, you can see there's a slowdown thing. If I go below that again within 3 seconds, I won't get a penalty. But if I manage to mess it up and go, oh no, it doesn't even need to be like 0.1 kilometer an hour too fast for 3 seconds, I'll get a massive penalty. I'll get a 40-second stop go penalty, and it'll basically ruin your race. So do make sure to practice this a lot of times before you try it in a race, alright? Now, if you did find this video helpful or useful or just fun to watch, whatever, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I've been Marcus, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!